Right, sorry. Yeah, I think that if you've looked out of the window, and here we are, nice early morning, looking to my eastern sky. Orion has been coming up and getting earlier and earlier in the evening. But how do I know this? Well, if you started looking, then I think you're partway there. Perhaps you've gone out into a field, and particularly if you've been open to a summer field, you know, and you get this great, what looks like a milky, cloudy effect coming across the centre of the sky. What is that? That's our galaxy. Again, how do I know this? How do I find out this? You know, but just by looking, and even whilst you are looking, suddenly this very bright object might streak across the sky. Fantastic. What is it? Well, it's the International Space Station. I know that. I'm an experienced astronomer and I've been doing it for far too many years. I think it's now getting over 55 years I've been doing astronomy of one sort or another, but getting really serious into it for the last 35 years. But once you've started looking and asking, what is that? You've actually become an astronomer. So what you want to do now is perhaps record what you're doing. This is me. I always go around with a notebook. Sometimes it's a list of things that I know I want to see in that evening. It might not mean a lot to you, but it means a lot to me and perhaps to other astronomers. Oh, yes, this is what I'm looking at. These are frames that I've done. And anything additional I throw on the other side. So I always carry a notebook. And I recommend before you even start with binoculars and telescopes, a notebook is a very good place to start. Start drawing the stars as you see them and think, well, what was that? And then there are ways of finding out what you're seeing. Currently, I'd say there's never been a better time to actually try and pick up doing astronomy. I've been, as I say, been doing it for many, many years, and it started off, you could only find out what you were looking at through the use of books and star charts. And then the planets move in the sky. They're named wanderers, so they're wandering around the sky, so they don't show up in star charts. So, but today, particularly with telephone, be it iPhones or Android, there are several apps. I'm not going to recommend one over another particularly, but I tend to use Sky Safari Plus. It's one I pay for. You don't have to pay for it. You can buy a low level, but you can find out a star chart there that's got the full sky with the Milky Way going across it, where the zenith is. And here I was particularly looking for a galaxy that I wanted to see, and you can see this galaxy with binoculars. So, you know, you don't need particularly telescopes, but binoculars held steadily can do it. But ideally, small small telescope will easily show a lot of these objects. So then you can go in, and the ideal software will give you a drop-down menu where you can get information about that object that you're looking at. And here you can see it here. So this is just some screenshots that I took from my camera so you can see what's going on. But you don't only use it for looking at the sky. I use it when I'm looking at the moon. What's the phase of the moon tonight? When's it going to be rising? Where should I start looking for the moon? Well, this gives me this information with moon phase. I think that's a free app. There's another one that, you know, that's down here on the top of my apps, my top screen. It always carries moon phase, so I know what it can do. It can get in the way of galaxies and things, so we don't like the moon all the time. But there's another thing that you can find, auroras. How many of you have seen auroras? How many think it's impossible to see the aurora from where we are, perhaps in southern Britain? Those in Scotland might see it more often. Those who in Iceland, more often again. But yes, they are there. But this is the old star chart that you used to have to use. And you're going through, here's Orion, and here's some areas within Orion that have nebula within them. but you really weren't much up if you have planets coming in. So you really have got it. You have got it well now, right? And then you can look at the stars, and there are things like magazines like Astronomy Now, or in the UK, or Astronomy in the USA, Sky and Telescope. Too many to mention. And I even get Carte du Ciel when I'm over in France, and I get another one when I go to Spain where I've got an observatory. But there are little articles about little asterisms, little linking of stars, the S that you can see in Orion, near Orion's belt. And here it is, just a quick photograph. I don't use anything grand to do the photography at all. He said, looking behind him, I just, a DSLR. Yeah, okay, so it's a rather fine one now, but you can get very good shots, even with the iPhone now. They certainly, and one or two of the Galaxy phones do enable long exposure, so you can get some pretty good shots with that. So the first thing that I recommend people look at is the moon. It's easy to find. It's bright enough. You can see it. So that's one of the first things you look at, whether it be with binoculars or your first telescope. You might begin to look at the moon. And here, when I started, it was all film photography and hypering film to enable you to see some of the stars and it was awfully complicated. But here, digital was just coming of age by now. But here, I would do a drawing. I'd do a quick pencil sketch and then come in and do it after. So here I am, 5:30 a.m. You'll see a lot of my observing notes. This is from one of my observing books. 5:30 in the morning, 22nd of October, 2008. Telescope I use, well, it's the one that I held up. This little teleview, it's a 3-inch refractor, very nice too, but you can zoom in well with it and pick up detail, and slowly, once you've picked it up and done, you go in and shade it up later and you name it, and you begin to learn, well, here we have a crater on the moon, here we see later cratering, this is fantastic. So, these things are there. So when you get a camera, okay, you might step up a grade, but this is just using a bridge camera. Nothing complicated about it. It's on the bench in front of me. I'll not go and get it. It's just a Nikon P1000. And you can zoom in and get good detail on pictures, single snaps. Great. So you can see Tycho crater here. Well, marvellous. Or you can go in, now this is using a webcam on a telescope, smaller areas, greater detail, and you can see Aristarchus very bright there. I'll not go on, but tonight, those who are looking, it is the night of the lunar X. So you might actually go out when it starts going dark this evening, look at the moon and the terminator, which is the difference between dark and light. You might even find the lunar X. Now, how do you know when it's the night for the lunar X? Well, again, if you go on Google, type in lunar X or lunar Y, lunar X, two different effects, it'll give you the times when you can see it. So these days, the internet has made everything so much easier. And this, much to my late wife's chagrin, was what the underneath of our stairs looked. Right. Now it's much worse because I've spread out here into my living room, and everywhere around me is full. There's even a large telescope behind me, two large telescopes behind me here. But this is that small refractor, binoculars. I even do some solar imaging. So there's binoculars there, smaller binoculars, bigger binoculars. That's all there, and a warm coat to put on, vital. And I do recommend warm shoes. If ever you go and do astronomy, wear warm shoes, because if you're going outside, it's your feet that get cold first. Forget this thing about your head losing heat. It's your feet. It's in contact with the cold ground. So Then I'll do set exposures. This is just a standard lens. The moon rolling up Silbury Hill here in Wiltshire. So I mix a bit of archaeology with some of the astronomy stuff as I go. This is an aurora from my house in Chippenham. I live in the middle of Chippenham, hence the railway runs behind me. And this is an aurora, October 2002. Well, there was a fantastic series displays 2015, and we're due for some very soon. This is slightly different. This is in Iceland, where you can get. So you can start traveling to see some of these wonderful sights. Noctilucent clouds. These are in summer mornings, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. Before Krakatoa had exploded, these were never seen. Well, they are getting more and more frequent. And they're bright blue electric clouds, so much higher, 90 kilometers high. Clouds should not exist at that height, but they have done since Krakatoa, and apparently launching of objects into space is leaving deposits behind high up that water molecules are hanging onto, and we're seeing them as clouds. You can also, this was from a Bristol festival of astronomy that they did at Bristol, where I actually got a solar halo around the telescope I was going. Interesting effects about our atmosphere and what happens, refraction of light going on. Solar viewing, do not do this unless you have the professional equipment. It's very expensive. It's worth doing, but you've got to do it properly. You can do the webcams. These were taken before the new webcams with chiller chips and everything were available. This was one of the old Philips 2 cam that you used to put on the end of your computer to be able to communicate when you're on the screen. You used to be able to cut them off and put them on a camera tube and into the tube of the telescope, and you could take pictures, Jupiter, Saturn, Venus as a crescent, and Mars. Comets, they're easy enough to find, but you tend to find when you get the best comets, you are introduced to another factor of astronomy, that's clouds. Right, doesn't matter when we go out there, we end up with clouds. But we were very lucky 2 summers ago to have this wonderful comet Neowise coming in. And this again, you can see I'm combining with one of the stones. This is just shadows of people. And this is comet Neowise over one of the stones at Avebury, the Swindon stone. And this was a combination, just happened to be when I went there, noctilucent clouds, so bright, 2 o'clock in the morning, should be pitch dark, and comet Neowise at the same time. You've got the avenue of archaeology here. Then you get shooting stars. I've seen some fantastic ones. I've even lost my front tooth. Going out to film these because they happened in 1998. They were a day and a half early. And suddenly the sky was being lit. Yeah, minus 11 magnitude. Just fantastic. Or perhaps this was this year during the Perseids. Well, I thought it was Perseid, and then no. Suddenly this one patch in the sky came out as I was imaging. And of course, it's a satellite that's breaking up. So all that debris in space. And yes, it does appear to be one of our friend Elon Musk's beautiful satellites. Then you can go to see, here we are, yeah, just looking out over the south coast, Milky Way, and here we are, some more of the Milky Way. I live in the middle of Wiltshire, so I can get the horse racing on at the same time. But this was actually lit by moonlight behind me, and I was still picking up the Milky Way. Or you can do star trails. Just hold the camera open for a time, take a whole series of pictures, and there's free software where you can stack them. And bang, you can get some really interesting star trails. And the space station again, here crossing the Pleiades. Great. This is another where I did drawings. Here I did a sketch of M30, M30. No, that's actually M34. See, I've got M35 up there, but that is M34 here. Yes, where I've done the done a sketch, and it has this ring and then bits. And all that I've done is reverse it. You know, it was black pencil on paper. I've scanned it and just reversed it just to show like stars. And then when you start getting in, this is just a 60-second exposure through a small 4-inch telescope. And you can see the vast magnitude of the cosmos by seeing the number of galaxies that are out there. I'm sort of watching the time, folks. Right, yeah. So other events that astronomers go and enjoy, eclipses. This was in the middle of a lake in China, and we thought we'd be on there on our own, and then 400 people joined us, and it was a wooden jetty. So trying to get a long exposure, forget it. On a boat, 1999. Iceland, an annular eclipse. Then Segovia, Spain, another annular eclipse. China, as I said, I thought we'd be the only people on here. And this was a party of about 8 of us from Wiltshire. And it was 90 degrees and about 98% humidity. It was warm. Lunar eclipses, we've got a partial lunar eclipse coming up at the end of the month. But this is my dome at home. I do, one of the things about starting astronomy is you never got enough where you want it. Those who do astronomy will know. Slowly you do build up. So I've got a dome here. I've done astronomy and given talks in South Africa and Namibia. Watch out, there was a rhino behind me. Didn't know it was going to be there. The swaying crater, which is an impact crater by a stony Condite meteorite, one of the few visited by Gene Shoemaker. So fantastic. So going around, and I give a lot of talks on Herschel. Simon at Bath will know this. I give a lot of talks, and particularly John Herschel. Of course, he was based here in South Africa, and this is the school at Veldhuizen, where he was, near Cape Town. And you had the whales, go on these trips and you see a lot more. And then I have this observatory in Spain that people can come to. Very nice dark skies. And even Tahiti. Somebody had to go there. I've got contact coming through with Venus when I was in. So I'm one of the few people who've seen 2 transits of Venus. I saw it when it was over in the UK. 2006 was it, and then this one in 2012 over in Tahiti. And yes, an interesting place, and Captain Cook went there to view there. But wherever you are, all I suggest is you get out there and do it.